Hello, fifth graders. This week during social studies class, we will be learning about early explorers and advances in technology. Our objectives for this lesson are to analyze the impact on the advancement of innovations, as well as to summarize the efforts to establish sea routes in order to increase trade and gain riches. By the end of this lesson, we will be able to tell how advances in technology helped European explorers sail to and settle in new places. Our key vocabulary will help us better understand everything we read about. The words are merchant, a person who buys and sells goods for profit. Slave trade, getting, transporting, and selling human beings as slaves. Navigation, the process of planning a route and finding one's location. Astrolabe, an instrument used in navigation that measures the sun and stars. Caravel, a small, fast-sailing ship. Because the sea surrounds Europe on three sides, Europeans long ago learned to travel the ocean. Brave sailors set out for new lands and reaches. Most looked for routes to trade with Asia. A few explorers found their way to North America. These early explorers were known as Vikings. Vikings were from Scandinavia, this region in northern Europe that includes Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. Beginning in the 1800s, the Vikings sailed the northern seas. One of these Vikings was called Eric the Red because of his red hair. You can see a picture of him on the left side of this slide. And Leif Erikson, his son, who we can see on the right side, was an explorer and was likely one of the first Europeans to land in North America. Europeans then lost interest in sailing west from Europe. However, hundreds of years later, Europeans would return to North America because they were motivated by trade. By the 1400s, trade between Europe and Asia was active. European merchants bought goods from Asia such as silk and spices. Traders then shipped these goods over dangerous roads. Trade with Asia made many people rich. This attracted more European nations to compete for control of trade routes. Some European rulers wanted to find a sea route to Asia to obtain its riches more easily. Portuguese explorers led the search to find a way to reach Asia by water. Portuguese rulers encouraged exploration. They often provided the money sailors needed to make expensive sea voyages. The son of Portugal's king, Prince Henry, who we can see here on both pictures on the slide, opened a school to teach navigation and map making in about 1419. He wanted to know more about the world around him and to make money by sending fleets to capture African gold and slaves. At Henry's schools, sailors, scholars, map makers, and shipbuilders examined information and worked together to improve sea travel and to invent new tools. The Portuguese traded more than gold and ivory. They also took part in the slave trade. Slave traders bought and sold humans as property. The Portuguese made the slave trade an important business activity. This caused the slave trade to grow, continuing for many centuries. This cruel practice expanded to European colonies across the Atlantic Ocean. Prince Henry spent nearly 40 years providing money for voyages to Africa's western coast. However, his sailors never made it all the way around the tip of Africa. Bartholomew Diaz led an expedition of 3 ships to explore Africa's western coast. Making his way through a fierce storm, his ships were successful in sailing around the tip of Africa. The Portuguese named the tip of Africa the Cape of Good Hope. We can notice here in the map the red the red lines show us how Vasco da Gama, who is another explorer that we can see here, also made it all the way to India. He was the first one to accomplish this through a water route. This was 10 years later when Vasco da Gama followed Diaz's route around Africa. He crossed the Indian Ocean and reached India, which was farther than Diaz had reached, and he was actually the first to accomplish this. Traveling by sea was faster. Navigation tools helped improve sea travel. Centuries earlier, the Chinese invented the magnetic compass. European sailors relied on it to know in which direction they were headed. The astrolabe was a tool from North Africa. It measured the height of the sun or a star above the horizon. Astrolabes helped sailors tell how far north or south of the equator they had sailed. There were other old navigational tools, like the sextant, which was used to tell latitude and longitude at sea, and the chronometer, which provided latitude at sea and exact measurement of time. Gunpowder, also an invention of the Chinese, became useful to explorers. Europeans used gunpowder in their guns and cannons that were mounted on their ships. They used them in battle or in the event of an attack. These tools also helped Europeans improve maps. Map makers learned to chart the location of places such as harbors and mouths of rivers more accurately. This helped sailors feel more confident when traveling unfamiliar waters. Now we have modern tools that help us not only move around short distances, but there are aeronautical charts, there are navigational charts, and all of these has allowed better exploration. In earlier times, that means long ago, heavy ships moved slowly. There's a picture of a big old ship that would take a long time to reach its destination. In the early 1400s, Portuguese shipbuilders adapted a ship called the caravel. The caravel is a modern navigational tool. The caravel was similar and lighter to other ships. It had many benefits. Its triangular sails allowed better control the wind. Other improvements included wooden decks without gaps and waterproofed wood. Larger cargo areas in the ship could carry enough supplies for longer voyages. And with this, guys, we close the summary of this lesson, leaving you with this quote that reads, "Exploration is really the essence of the human spirit."